one is a 2-mana neutral card that summons 3 1/1 Scarabs on Death Rattle. And when you look at classes like Shaman that have access to Flame Tongue Totem, that makes sense why you want to include it in this deck that loves board control and plays Sea Giants.
Yeah, Earthen Might as well. You know, a nice tool you can stick on it and then get some value from it later on. For me, one of the big ones I look at is that KillinAllDay has brought a full aggressive lineup to the tournament, and this has just seemed to be like one of his things. If it's not a Quest Rogue lineup, it's a full aggressive lineup. And then, you know, having it here, I want to say it's got a pretty good chance of taking this one down. You know, you look at the matchup side by side. Druid's been banned down on both. KillinAllDay's got, of course, the Even Shaman he's rolling with here, and then Odd Rogue and Odd Paladin as the other two decks. And on Paradox's side, we're looking at Shudderwock Shaman, of course, and Even Paladin and Recruit Hunter with Seeping Oozling and Silver Vanguard to be the big endgame power that he's looking for.
Yeah, so forego some of that early Death Rattle package just for a little bit more mid to late game punch, which is going to be interesting. You know, we were so used to seeing Devil's Array and Carnivorous Cube. It turns out Hunter has other good Death Rattle packages too.
Yeah, I think Hunter's just a pretty strong class overall. A lot of different angles you can take it from, and just depending on what you anticipate, you get to mold it around quite a bit. You know, KillinAllDay, if you've been following the scene at all, he's of course qualified for the World Championships. He did so in the summer season, the first season for this competitive rotation. And he's been still kind of showing up at tour stops and competing since then. Hasn't had a lot of spectacular performances, but just pretty solid overall. And for Paradox, this is really like one of the first big tournaments that he's had a performance at. You know, I've been seeing him a lot in Twitch chat lately when I'm hanging out in streams, and he told me he was going to show up to this tournament and show up and perform. And so far, that's been the case.
Paradox gets the 1/1 Tome to fight back, which is very nice. You want to just control the state of the Shaman board and force your opponent to react to it.
I'm picturing the pigeon meme right now, and it's the Shaman in the top left where the butterfly is. Is this a Paladin matchup? It's just a 1/1 totem.
That's right. Well, it's like even versus regular Paladin.
God, Mercspark Eel, so good. That is just like the reason to play Even Shaman, is that card right there.
Yeah, I love Mercspark Eel. I love like the fact that you can chain them. You can go Mercspark Eel and then Fire Plume Phoenix and Fire Elemental. You're just like shooting stuff nonstop.
Minions that kill minions and stay alive. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I think Battlecry deal X damage just feels very rewarding.
It's like that's the way that Argent Commander feels to me. Kill a 4-health minion and stay alive.
Yeah, you remember the old joke? It was Azure, or I messed it up. It's Argent Commander says Battlecry destroy an enemy Azure Druid.
6 mana 4/2.
I messed it up. It's the smell of the pizza that's messing with me, man. The smell of that pineapple pizza.
That sweet, sweet pineapple pizza that Dan loves. I don't think you're a monster.
I didn't either consider that possibility until you just brought it up.
Well, it's that, you know, the accusatory pineapple remarks from yesterday.
Who said that?
They were bothering me.
Oh. You saying what I said?
No, the chat.
Oh, you were reading chat while you were casting?
Well, no, I went back and I looked because I was curious what they said.
What else? So what did they say?
They said I was very handsome and smart.
Okay, that's believable.
Normal. That's very normal.
Yes.
And they said, Dan's a monster with all that pineapple on the pizza.
Okay.
Those are the only things I remember.
All right.
Yeah.
What else did they say?
But what else did they say? I'm pretty sure this is just the Earthen Might turn. You know, you're not really looking to get the enhanced value from it in the matchup. Sometimes you do, but mostly it's just about buffing a minion and keeping pace.
Yeah, more importantly, you have to keep the board dominance. Even Shaman is not a class that easily bounces back from losing the board. It can. You know, that's why things like holding on to the Powerful Totem is nice, but it suffers a lot more compared to the other token-based decks like Token Druid or Odd Paladin. They can reclaim the board instantly.
Yeah, I mean, Odd Paladin, you know, it's generating 2 minions a turn with the hero power.
Right.
With Token Druid, you have Spreading Plague and Swipe. With Even Shaman, all of the Shaman cards that really come back on board in a heavy way, they're all odd-costed. You know, it's Lightning Storm, it's Volcano. The rest of your cards, you have to go toe-to-toe with them.
It's true. It's all true.
Get ahead and then get more ahead. But this is like one of the really tough spots of the game for KillinAllDay, where the AoE turns are starting to become heavy, and you don't really have a ton of pressure to apply.
Yeah, this is often where I feel like even shamans are either they either make it or break it, right? It's at this point where they can choose to be a little bit more aggressive, or do they choose to hedge, or do they just play really safe? And I feel like a lot of people misplay, but not necessarily because they're bad. It's because I think it's really hard. I think even Shaman is one of the hardest decks to play. But
just something about the way you put it was it's not because they're bad.
It's not. I think it's a hard day.
I think you hit the nail on the head here with this is really one of the make or break it turns. You know, the 4 and 5 range, often because it's just another 4 plus a hero power, is pretty darn weak for even Shaman, all things considered. It really picks up the pace towards the later stages, and that's why the early game is so vital. You know, Killen's going to fill up the board here and say, I need to be strong versus AoE, so he's going to add the Scarabin. You know, he could have gone for Serenite Chain Gang here and applied more pressure. He had 1 attack to the board this turn. But Paradox doesn't necessarily have to respond to this situation, and if he does, Killen's protected from this. You know, I think that this is the play I would have gone for as well, but I'm really not happy about it if I'm in Killen's spot.
Right, because your opponent also doesn't exactly have to pull the trigger on their AoE either.
Yeah. And even if they do, there are copies of Earthshock in Paradox's deck as well, so
they can even afford to take it slower. That Earthshock, like you mentioned, can just leave useless minions on the board. And then, now you have to extend a little bit further in. Now you have to extend a little bit further, and then you can just get wiped, and then you fall too far behind.
Yeah, even Shaman is great when, again, you have to go toe-to-toe with your opponent. But it's when your opponent is, going wide on board, or you have to go wide on board, that the deck, I think, is at its weakness. If there was something in the deck to supplement the damage, like once you've secured a board position to punish your opponent for it, that would be the ideal card for even Shaman.
There's little time.
Yeah, I like using Earthshock here, shutting down the options. And if your opponent plays a Sea Giant, you have that Hex.
Yeah, just floating up some mana because it's not really under pressure.
Yeah, in some ways it's very nice that Paradox even got a totem that can't attack back. Like, if you got Steering Totem, Killen can develop stronger minions and maybe put the entire board outside of Volcano range.
Yeah, kind of weird that, having weaker minions rolled off the hero power can be beneficial here for Paradox.
Right.
The fact that your opponent has a way to trade off a minion.
It's the best one, because then he gains 2 life. They have to kill it. Usually if it's like a healing totem, your opponent's going to leave it up. So that way, if you Volcano, there's added health to the board.
Yeah, and there's 18 health on board right now, and that's a big point for Killen, is that Volcano is, pretty weak here. The Sea Giant is the most likely to live, and it will often live because there's even more targets on board for Volcano to splash around. So, Hex pretty much the protocol here. And then Killen's board is full.
Can't do anything.
With just 6 attack.
Yep.
What to do?
Which is, okay, but you want to be doing a lot more. So this is partially why we're talking about, developing a little bit beyond, if you trade some space away. But then the things like the Primal Phantom is going to keep summoning Murlocs.
Yeah, it's one of the big things to think about with even Shaman that I run into a lot, that I don't really run into with any other deck with any realistic frequency is board space. Between having the 1 cost totem position and having Primal Fin Totem in the deck, I often find myself in these spots where I have 7 minions on board, and it's not really anything substantial. In this spot, the Hex comes out, and now you're in that spot, it's nothing really substantial anymore. Like when I queue into Odd Warrior, for instance, a lot of times with Shaman, I will simply forego using the hero powers because my board will get full and there's nothing left to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's maybe even a case to make for Paradox's end, that he may have been better to Earthshock before even hero powering, so that way he doesn't kill off the Scarab if he accidentally gets the Wrath of Air Totem for spell damage.
Yeah.
Because then your opponent gets an extra free board space, and let's say they're able to put an extra 4 with the Argent Commander, then that's a pretty serious threat.
Yeah, and this has been quite deliberate from Paradox too, to just keep it slow, not rolling the totem, to allow for board space to happen, so he can very cleanly get to a Haggath turn. Once he's at a Haggath turn, perhaps the cards he generates from playing minions are also able to fight back against what Killen's done and buy him enough time to win.
Yeah. And again, this is very good cornering from Paradox.
Yeah, this is great. This is exactly how you're supposed to abuse even Shaman.
Dark spirits.
And now with such a distinct advantage with clearing the board and having all kinds of AoE, how will Killin respond? He's got some pretty fat minions though. Almost all the 6-mana cards are in his hand.
Yeah, this is like we've entered the bread and butter territory for Even Shaman, but the progress on life total is so far behind. You know, Killin's going to need wave after wave of significant threats to be making real progress here. And while he's got that, it's just a tough thing to do.
This curse has become our
So I'm worried for Killin.
strength.
With Paradox, not sweating it.
Yeah.
It's time to start getting this checklist done.
Yep. Right now, Paradox has the ability to bounce back the Zola for 1 mana. Put the Zola Battlecry into the pool, the Grumble Battlecry into the pool. I guess we're missing Life Drinker at that point, right?
Yeah, it's the age-old question, too, of, like, would you rather try to get a 1-cost Grumble, or would you rather have a 1-cost Zola to back up your Shudderwalk? And so
I like the 1-cost Zola.
I think I like the 1-cost Zola, too. And the main consideration for me is that Killin has included 2 copies of Hex in his Even Shaman deck.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, sorry. Just a second.
Yeah, it's getting pretty close to Paradox having, you know, a virtual
Oh
mock.
my goodness. Okay, so Paradox, when he was talking to me yesterday, was like kind of half bragging, half complaining about like his performances in tour stops prior to coming to this event. He was just like, yeah, in Europe I just can't win and go very far, blah blah. So guess I come to America and farm with all the easy NA players, and he ends up just cleaning house. But when you get like the Volcano and the Lightning Storm, it's like, today's your day, man. And it's not a knock on his playing skill whatsoever. It's like one of those things where maybe finally all the stars can align for him to have a deep run at the tournament, because this guy's been attending so many tour stops, practicing very hard, but yet hasn't had the results yet.
Yeah,
And it could be a combination of the competition to field, and also the fact that he picked the right decks and he's getting the good outcomes.
yeah, you really need all the factors to line up for a tournament. You know, you're going to have to build good decks. You're going to have to play really well, and at some point, you're going to have to get lucky. You know, you're facing a lot of fierce competition over a number of rounds.
Some lucky players don't win tournaments.
It's just not the way it works.
That's just not how it works.
Imagine if you got unlucky at everything. You probably wouldn't get lucky then and win. I mean, that's how the definitions work. But, you know, right now, Paradox, it's looking quite easy for him. I mean, Killin's hand's still, you know, stacked, but he's going to be limited to 1 minion a turn after this.
Yeah.
Paradox is going to overload himself, but he's got the tools to get through it, and that's really the important facet of this, is that I think he's just going to cleanly get through it, even despite the, you know, the mana expenditure that he's got going on right now.
Yeah. About the average result. Has a second Lightning Storm to back it up.
Yeah, you would have liked those to be reversed. You'd like the Star Knights to live and stuff.
Well, there's some really funny like shenanigans that could have been pulled off too. He could have like Zola'd another Grumble and then played that Grumble to bounce back the Zola and the Grumble to both be 1 mana.
Yeah.
So that way you have like double insurance against Shudderwalk.
Yeah, at a certain point, you got to worry about your life total, though. When
Yeah,
you're under that much
exactly.
pressure.
It's Corpse Taker that's the biggest threat here, so you got to deal with it. And I like his use though. Drop shot, keep your hand space.
Yeah, the Zola's going to stick around in hand for post-Shudderwalk if something goes wrong. That's the ideal scenario. You know, also adding a second Zola to the pool, a lot of times it can way slow down the way your combo is going to work, because you end up spending so much time with Zola making 9-cost Shudderwalks instead of 1-cost ones.
Right,
You get
because it
corners.
keeps adding copies of it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Is it worth hexing?
I would say so. You know, this is about the biggest minion Paradox is going to have. It's about the most threatening one he's going to have. But he is overloaded this turn, so you don't really feel it necessary to do so. But you know, keeping an extra minion around and applying a little bit more pressure, I think it matters at this stage. I think Killin needs to take every edge you can get.
Kelsa's not that great, but there's Volcano. So Paradox can clear the board, play a little small minion, see what other spells he gets. Just keep playing the waiting game until you can get to the Serenite Chain Gangs. That's the last missing piece for Paradox to get those big starter walk damages off.
Yeah. As the AoEs tick down and you spend them as well, you get a little bit more nervous every turn you don't have the full checklist complete.
Yeah.
You're still, you know, under time, and the onus is on Paradox to find those cards. You know, Killin's got 2 more waves himself, plus the draws every single turn. You know, the minions in Killin's deck, plenty more of them. The AoEs, however, you know, you're relying on Hagatha to get that done. So Paradox, I think, you know, pretty substantial lead right now.
I must decide.
Yeah, I'm surprised what else he's thinking about. For you know, maybe just messing with his opponent a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, you see him taking the notes on. If you watch his perspective right now, is you know he's been playing cards and at the end of the turn taking note of what's been going on.
Elemental, Scarabag, trying to build up the board back, but this is looking very dicey for Killin. And is this the best deck for him to try and corner? Shadowwalk Shaman does tend to struggle against aggressive decks.
Well, it really depends. You know, for me, the fact that Paradox has got the Seeping Oozling Hunter deck, it's a much heavier Hunter.
That's true.
Than is traditionally there. You know, there's no eggs, there's no spider bombs in here. It's relying on getting through the early game because your opponent's playing quite a slow deck. I think his lineup is really well built as a well-rounded piece. But, you know, there are some standout weaknesses, and to me, it's the Hunter deck that has the biggest target on its head right now. All three of Killin's decks are meant to get going pretty quickly, and when you're not facing down AoE turns, that's where his decks really take off. And so that demand is my #1 worry for Paradox in the series. You know, I think this game, it's getting pretty close to the wrapped-up point for Paradox. But that Hunter is going to have a tough time getting through without some significant draw help.
Wow, Lava Burst to snipe the Fire Elemental. And now Killin's like, how's my other big minion? I was hoping he could connect for damage.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm always a big believer in the Nimbus. Let's do it. Are you a Goku kind of Nimbus, or are you a Krillin?
I mean, you saw
Krillin all day?
You saw Killin kind of like take the stance.
Oh, that's not good, actually.
Well, it's not too bad. He could trade in the 1/1 here and could Arcanosaur and pop the egg. Ends up with 3 1/1s
that's true.
in the 3/3.
I was thinking about the idea of killing your own board is not that great.
I'm not ecstatic about it, but is that the best he's got right now?
I mean, his best form of pressure and tempo is just the Argent Commander with a totem.
Still, you have to see a mind control tech from Paradox.
Yep. Get to see the he knows one more storm and one more volcano is possible.
Yeah, and so if mind control tech is really one of your big worries and lightning storm is one of your worries, it's much wiser to play the Argent Commander in that case. You know, a weaker, wider board and AoE protection.
Yep. Storm here, pretty effective. We'll only leave three 1/1s, but not really much else going on. But Paradox also has Farsight, so he can kind of reboot for this turn, see what he draws.
Wow.
Cost would be about the same.
Arcanosaur is like a menacing Nimbus nerf. Just one more use.
Stole the Argent Commander! All right.
Sometimes it's just your day.
Yeah, and Lightning Storm's going to close it out.
Wow.
That is going to be the game unless Killin can draw Hagatha.
The Arcanosaur's active.
No, I mean, there's just no way he can build up enough pressure at this point. That's my argument. Just he can play this, but he has just like he has no win condition anymore.
Draw the big stuff.
He drew Alakir, which is actually a really nice pickup. I was thinking about like Hagatha or Bust, but Alakir is pretty decent.
Oh boy!
And now we finally see the card that was missing for Paradox the whole time.
And the Spirit Echoes in hand can, generate a lot more of these too.
Oh yeah.
Hand space can start becoming an issue, but he's already found Shutterwalk and Grumble's already out there. So, burning cards at this point, Paradox doesn't really care about that. The biggest one for him is maximizing the success onto Shutterwalk at this point.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Killin taps out, and that's going to be game 1 for the Shutterwalk show.
Yeah, I didn't think that Shutterwalk was going to have the toughest time getting through. I thought there's definitely a chance it could struggle for the tech issues that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, a little bit of choppiness. The playful sprites are at it again, admirable.
Yep. I saw it in that Mulligan's video. Tries to get the copier done.
Error 39.
Uther gets it.
That's a really underground meme for people who don't know. But let's go into game number 2. Even Paladin versus the Even Shaman. Now, I'm not a math wizard, but I do know that 1/1s tend to beat 0/2s.
Yep, that's definitely true. I think that Killin has some some adequate fight back in this matchup. You know, one of the struggles for even Paladin is to keep minions on board when it's playing one at a time. And so for Killen, it's about having the minions that really pack that punch of tempo. You know, being able to have the Merc Spark Eels, being able to land Argent Commanders and Fire Elementals in really key spots. And if he can keep Paradox off of Spike Ridge Steed for long enough, what ends up happening is by the time he finds it, or he has to cast it in one turn because his minions will die otherwise, Killen has opportunity to hex afterwards. And so I like the way that Killen's built it to fight against these styles of matchups. And I would say, you know, if he's got early plays, he's probably got the edge.
I mean, he's got some plays, but turn 3 is looking a little weak for Killen. He's got Scarabeg and Air Elemental.
Well, Scarabeg's not too weak in this matchup. You know, you're considering that one of the big ways that Paradox fights back is Consecration or with Wild Pyromancer. Scarabeg can, you know, provide you a little bit of offensive power the turn afterwards.
That's true. Ooh, an interesting pickup is the Scale Hide. That can help clean up a lot of the board. And, you know, one thing that we didn't talk about is that the totems do have a pretty significant outcome if it's a healing totem that can help you basically stay ahead on board against Even Paladin, force them to AoE. But even small stuff like taunt totems can draw away weapon attacks. The Valeniers, the True Silvers, make it really inconvenient for your opponent to get high value off of their cards.
Yeah, that incremental edge could pick up really quickly as well. You know, just one turn of having your board stick there and be able to generate value from it can be enough for Killen to pull too far ahead for Paradox. So he's got to, you know, really tiptoe around this situation and fight as hard as he can. Wild Pyromancer not looking too bad in this spot.
It's not looking too bad, but it's not that amazing either. Because part of the reason why Pyromancer quality feels like a good option to hold on to is because of how cheap it is and allows you to develop more in the late stages of the game. Versus a quality Consecration is 6 mana investment, so it doesn't leave you with many options afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely a true story. I mean, the mana investment is, you know, a pretty paramount, you know, perspective to have on it. The question for me is, you know, where is Paradox fighting back on board if he's not Wild Pyromancering this turn? You know, it's just a pretty tough situation to be sitting in. And then again, also, he's not always, his AoE is not always going to be live. You know, sometimes there's going to be a Divine Shield, or there's going to be Scarabeg backup, or you don't have anything on board and you're yielding initiative back to Killen. You know, those are some of the tough situations where the Wild Pyromancer quality, the cost effectiveness can be a big deal.
That makes a lot of sense.
I like this though.
Yeah, I think Killen probably senses some kind of redemption or auto defense matrix.
But this is just a measly 1-1.
Yeah.
You send it in.
Yeah.
I hate to see it, but
everything you develop into this Pyromancer just feels bad.
it's already done its job, and now it's going to do more.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Getting the preemptive course taker before your opponent, even though you go second, it's because of that Wild Pyromancer dictating the pace.
This is always one of the biggest struggles I have too, is with with Corpse Taker and True Silver Champion. When I'm facing down some pressure on board, I just never know which of these to play first. You know, my head tempts me to play the True Silver first because I have Valenier.
Right.
But I feel like if the Corpse Taker succeeds on board, your opponent's just in a lot of trouble.
How does your opponent punish a Corpse Taker on board? Flame Tongue Totem, I guess? It's not even really punished. They trade both their minions in.
Yeah, Flame Tongue Totem, you know, brings it to a pretty even spot. They have 3 mana of development afterwards, so you're cutting off to 4.
I guess what I like about True Silver Champion is it protects the Corpse Taker for the following turn as well. So you kill off this minion, you most likely develop, or your opponent most likely develops something, and then you can kill off whatever comes out the other side.
Yeah, one of the big things to note is that Killen has actually no weapon destruction in the deck. So where this deck, you know, prior, it would run 2 copies of Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Right.
Killen has brought Scarabeg and Direwolf Alphas in those slots. So he's fighting as aggressively for board as he can.
Yeah.
You know, he's saying weapon destruction, who cares? I don't really need it that much.
It makes sense, too, given the prevalence of Odd Paladin in this tournament.
Yeah.
Like, Odd Paladin, of course, shutting down their weapon would be great, but 3/1/1s is exactly what fights back against them with Siege Giant in your deck.
Yeah.
Oh, well, one of these is not like the other.
Yeah. Still a 3/3 Divine Shield taunt, you know, but Paradox he's got the tools to really check this. You know, it's the double attack and then the True Silver Champion. But the problem is that Killen rolled the 1/1 totem, so he's able to actually answer back on the Corpse Taker right afterwards. So now I look at that and I'm like, Can you Consecration? Well, no. There's still going to be a 2-1 there. Like, what could he really do to punch through this? And if you Consecrations, you get to attack, and wipe out the board, but you're left with a 3-1 Wind Fury against nothing. Looking pretty good to me.
So so Consecration's good in this spot.
Yeah, it's I don't really like spending these tools, but
okay, so you're saying you don't want to, but it's a good play.
Yeah, it's
okay.
the second.
I was like, dude, it looks great to me.
The second one makes it like super easy.
Right.
But it's worth thinking about it anyway. Like, how do the inflection points work? And it's going into Killin's turn 6, so Fire Elemental's really on your mind. Can't let that snowball ahead of time. So the weapons to follow up even on the Fire Elemental. Paradox is great shape here.
No Battlecry damage either for KillinAllDay to shut down this Corpse Taker. Oh,
ooh.
There we go. Mercspark Eel, and all of a sudden, Killin's right back in it.
Yeah, you can see the importance of like Scarabeg though. Like being able to fit it in on one of these turns could have been night and day difference.
Right, because then the 1/1s would have been able to strike back, and then Killin had board dominance again.
Yeah, and Killin is just sweating right here. He's like, oh, please don't Spike Ridge Steed. Please don't Blessing of Kings. Please don't have anything relevant.
Well, he does have Hex.
It's like almost every single card in Paradox's deck that costs over the 4 mark is a bad thing for Killin right now. Looking at Tarim. Tarim is like the one card that is not problematic. I guess Avenging Wrath as well.
Well, it wouldn't even be the worst thing in the world to even if your opponent had Tarim in this spot because you are ahead on the board count, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, Tarim here is like one of the only weak plays that's big for Paradox right now.
Paradox wondering how long you hold on to these weapons. He has 4 swings. That's at least 4 turns if he's going to get the value out. And then once you start swinging with the Valenier and you start developing those minions that have Valenier, you have to account for the fact that you might just keep getting it back and back, or back again, which means Trousseau Champion stays in your hand for even longer.
Yeah, I mean, to me it's really like the Hex is the important part. Mm-hmm. How do you get past the Hex in the best way possible? Right. And I think that extra 1/1s, spelling out a big difference in that regard. He's paying a lot of attention to being able to fight back against a 5 health minion. And I'm thinking like get Greymane, just keeping the board trimmed down in general. I think a lot of this spelled making the additional 1/1 here.
It's so interesting that both these players have very similar power spikes. Both of them had like the Corpse Taker on 4. Both of them have like the Lich King, and they're just trying to like jockey for position until that point.
It's a very mirror match-esque style of thing that's going on here.
Man, but saying that Trousseau is paying off because taking down this Flame Tone is going to be really nice. One of the best cards in Shaman. Does Paradox use this opportunity to coin out the Lich King finally?
Well, this is really, one of the big stages of the game where I think Paradox needs to be able to threaten Killin, but he's worried about Hex as well. So is it better to get Lich King hexed, or is it better to get a Spike Ridge Steed hexed? And I'm really thinking it's Lich King, because Lich King will have already provided you some amount of value there. And losing your Steed or losing your Valenier charge is going to cost you a lot more in the long run.
I can buy it.
If you play Lich King here, your opponent pretty much can't play their own Lich King. If that's their best contest, you have Blessing of Kings, you have Spike Ridge Steed, and you're going to run over Killin if that's the answer.
I like it too because I feel like there's just no other good way to use the coin as well. Like, what are you really saving for at that point? And so it's like you said, you force Killin to react. Ooh, nice pickup, by the way. Wild Pyromancer and Consecration all combined into one.
Yeah, I mean, Killin, it's got a Hex here, and it floats so much mana. This was prime time mana for Killin, and he has to play defense in this turn instead. It's not the situation you want to be in.
Yeah, it's brutal. Did you toss in the Earthen Might, or do you feel like you want to save that for value?
Yeah, you might as well keep chipping away. It's here for, pretty much activating Scarabeg a lot of times.
But the people look at the Alec here in hand, I think, oh, 10 damage and an extra elemental. But I want to say that there's a lot of weak elementals in the pool. You saw Air Elemental picked up, you saw Arcano Sword, those don't really get the job done. And then there's like small things like Firefly that you don't really have application of, and a bunch of other stuff. Sure, there's going to be some other powerful elementals in the mix. You know,
Yeah.
Baron Geddon and Blaze Caller, but how often are you going to get that? They're much rarer chances because of how few there are.
Yeah, the best way to look at Earth and Might is a miniature Blessing of Kings. You take the value when you,
2/2 blessing.
you take the value when you can get it, but if you get an extra buff out of it, yeah, just have a savory delight.
Agreed. Blessing of Kings with upside, which is pretty cool.
It's very rare that you're desperate enough to have to wait for an elemental and hope to get the right roll to get out of a game.
We might exactly experience that with the Lich King available this turn and Earthen Might Alec here following turn. Seems pretty dope to me.
Yeah, I mean, Earth and Might is a spectacular pickup here for Killen.
Oh.
That is a nice way to bluff that card.
Yeah.
Because Killen knows he's going to play Lich King this turn. Absolutely 100% of the time, Killen is playing Lich King on this turn. So when you point that Earth and Might, Paradox is now thinking about how to follow up on your Lich King and thinking exactly about Hex afterwards. That is some brilliant bluffing that Killen's doing right there. I don't know if Paradox is going to buy into it, but it's rare you get that good of an opportunity.
It works on players that are also specifically like high level too. Like if you do this on ladder at rank 15, I don't think anyone's going to be thinking twice about it.
Yeah, and most of the time they're not even paying attention. They're like
They're
at
all
work at their
tabbing,
desk and
watching Netflix. Yeah. So now it's like Paradox, like, I have to be really careful about my Valinir. I have to be really careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Also, you mentioned how the games are being mirrored. Killen also gets Death and Decay from Lich King in this one.
Which is really good against even Paladin.
Uther and Shaman, Uther and Thrall are just battling to see who's the one on top.
Winner gets to retain control of the alliance.
Where keeps Gengrave?
Winner keeps Gengrave. And before people start tweeting at me about actual Warcraft lore, because I'm pretty sure I was like way off the mark on that one. I do not know anything. All I know is that people call Thrall Green Jesus, and I am totally on board with that.
It's not inaccurate.
All right, let's see what this Alec here can do.
Second Consecration was brutes in this spot, and one of the big payoffs for Paradox afterwards, he's still got an AoE effect with Death and Decay.
Yeah. Corpse Taker, by the way, has lost its Wind Fury package and may have even lost its Lifesteal effect because the Vicious Scale High was drawn.
Yeah, one copy of Vicious Scale Hide in here. Argent Commander's still in the deck, so it does have Divine Shield.
And probably has Taunt?
Yeah, it's got Taunt with
like a Serenite Chain Gang.
Yeah, Serenite Chain Gang is still in the deck as well. But this turn, again, pretty 100% for Killen.
Yeah. Hey, big Waxy.
One of those big dumb elementals, or little dumb elementals for that matter, that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so normally this might be like kind of terrifying territory here for Paradox, but what he's learned is that Killen was willing and able to bluff from that Earth and Might, and can be quite confident that Hex isn't there as a result of that. So the Valinir turn, I think, is looking pretty spectacular,
Right.
and you're setting up for like the immense swing afterwards.
Well, he saw the Earthen Might being used, which was the card he was hovering over.
Exactly. Like he knows that Killen was now willing and able to make that bluff.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I understood.
Yep. And
He's capable of the bluff. So
Yeah.
now the mind games are completely off. In the sense that
well, you just know
Killen
what's
can't
up.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you ignore it as if nothing ever happens.
See, but now if he disrespects that, Killen can do that the next time truthfully.
Ooh, I like that. Oh, I was about to say Wax Elemental. Kind of useless. In fact, I said Wax Elemental would have more use in the deck to buff the Corpse Taker than out of the deck in the hand.
Of course, Flame Tongue gets drawn right as that happens.
Yeah.
But Killen's out of gas. I mean, the deck is stacked on the top end. We're still looking at Hagatha, two Sea Giants in the deck, 2 Fire Elementals, Argent Commander. But there's a lot of little stuff, too. 2 Direwolf Alphas, Menacing Nimbus, Primal Fin Totems.
Well, Menacing Nimbus, but hold on. Menacing Nimbus can get you another Wax Elemental.
Just hear me out.
And then at that point, you're just 1 Caverns below away from trying to be Quest Rogue.
Yeah, and so Killen here, when he doesn't develop any minions, it's because Paradox doesn't have anything super substantial on board right now. And so he's trying to represent a wider range of things to do here and then also delay the value from Paradox. Either force him to make a decision, say, hey, I'm going to try to take the Valenier option now and pressure you, or he has to have an alternative form of development. And honestly, Paradox has just got every single one of those things at his disposal right now. So despite the fact that I think Killin has a more value-packed deck at the end game, he's just fallen behind and isn't really finding a payoff turn.
Dang.
And a lot of it boils down to that coin Lich King as well. It's set Killin so far behind on tempo that he had to end up sacrificing so much to fight back for board, and still lost the board.
Well, he does have one good tool at his disposal, though. Death and Decay can handle a lot of the Even Paladin minions pre-buff. That second Spike Rich Seed, though, that is nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty much a big shutdown here, and the Valenier threatening to compound that issue further.
Yeah. I will say, though, even Shaman has one thing that even Paladin doesn't, which is a reliable late game through the form of Hagatha, as you were talking about. Even Paladin pretty much runs out of gas at a certain point, and they're just stuck drawing like the exact last pieces of damage or hoping that their last bomb can stick onto the board.
It often works, though. I mean, Valenier's the one card that's the exception to that.
Yeah.
Big Waxy. Let's go, Big Waxy.
Yeah. I mean, that's... Okay, the Divine Shield 3-2 with Taunt is actually quite fearsome for 1 mana.
Wow.
But
that might be
Pyromancer
enough. Yeah.
draw.
I mean, you hate to lose your own front half of the Spike Ridge Steed to this, but this just might be nail in the coffin for Killin because he's out of cards. He's down to 1 Death Knight card from Lich King. And Paradox is just stacked on his side. He's got the Valenier that's still yet to crank 1 time and 3 minions in hand.
Things look really good.
Yeah, this is like way more than enough to close.
I mean, he can even develop powerfully after this. He can Hero Power Glass Knight, play Gen Greymane. Like, it's all great as long as he puts enough pressure on.
Yeah, and he doesn't even have to swing with the Valenier. He's free to just wait and try to isolate it onto the right minion.
Yeah.
Say like a
Serenite Chain Gang.
if his Serenite Chain Gang gets picked up, that is one of the ideal targets for it. Killin's just out. It's almost without Hagatha, there's no way he's coming back this game.
I mean, now here's the problem. Like, even if he draws Hagatha, he's still kind of in trouble. The board state wouldn't change much should he draw it next turn, which means does he use it Death and Decay now? He does. This is acknowledging that he needs to hope that Hagatha is drawn, but then another problem exists is Hagatha's really only good if you have minions in the hand. It's not that great if you don't.
Yeah, and Paradox isolating onto the cheap option.
Yeah, so that Hex is less punishing.
Yep. Also, it's just a wider board state. This is stronger against Hagatha. This isn't enough through Hagatha, I believe, to win the game. The Avenging Wrath
You are correct.
represents so much damage. Yep, and I saw that reach on the keyboard. That's Killin. Down 2 games. Paradox 2-0 right now.
Wow.
Over Killin. And it's the Hunter, though. That's the last one. Killin is still not out of this one yet.
Instead, will we find that the Shaman can finally get a win and put a huge, important W for KillinAllDay on the board?
Yeah, I mean, Tar Creeper's a heck of a card at holding off early pressure when you have significant follow-up. But if the board gets too wide, that's where Paradox is really going to struggle, even if he finds some of the early defensive tools. So, early on for KillinAllDay, he's looking to snowball the board as quickly as possible. And so I'm thinking Flame Tongue Totem and Earthen Might are, of paramount importance to be able to close the game before Paradox can get defense set up.
Yeah, and a lot of these tools, too, for Hunter are fantastic. Deathstalker Rexar is great to answer all the early boards. Do you want to keep that? He chooses not to. Flanking Strike's great. I love Houndmaster Shock just because it absorbs a lot of damage, and if your opponent can't answer it, you have great synergy afterwards with Flanking Strike and the rush on the Wolf.
Yeah. Houndmaster Shaw loses a bit of its punch in this deck because you don't have the Devilsaur Egg play dead to follow up and really generate a lot of momentum. But it still services as a threatening minion. It's a 3/6 body for 4 mana, and your opponent gets to charge rush in with Flanking Strike or with Witchwood Grizzly. And those are just ways to fight for board and keep synergies off of KillinAllDay's side. So it's an important mechanism that I think he should be keeping in this matchup.
Oh, double Flanking Strike.
It's a lot of ways to fight.
It's just really powerful. And Flanking Strike's always been You know, just a very solid card. You compare it to the early days of Hearthstone when Goblins vs. Gnomes released Implosion. Everyone clamored for, can we just have a consistent 4-mana spell that summons a 3/3 worth of stats instead of 2 or 4?
Yeah, our 10-mana cards should be consistent, not like Yogg-Saron. It should do something powerful every time.
Yeah, and Ultimate Infestation was born.
And Flanking Strike, and now I see people, you know, nobody really complains about Flanking Strike that much. That's just a cool card. Ultimate Infestation, though, I mean, you got to be consistent at least. If you're going to complain about Yogg, you can't complain about Ultimate Infestation. Can't have it both ways.
You have yet to meet the internet. they somehow know of ways for everybody to win. Candle Shot, Firefly, Charge, Devilsaur. The Candle Shot is good early game, but with things like Taunt Totem in a way, it kind of makes it problematic.
Yeah, I'm probably just taking the Candle Shot here. I think Firefly just going to get chewed up on board.
I don't know. I think Firefly, because you have Houndmaster Shaw, gives it some actual, you know, versatility to its use. So it can fill out the mana curve. It can also just be used like in turn 6 or 7 to help gain back a little bit of momentum in case you just don't get the luxury of using Solar Vanguard.
One of the big ones I'm thinking about is Corpse Taker, and being able to immediately answer the Divine Shield Flanking Strike.
Sure.
I think that's, you know, really important for Paradox, because that's one of the prime snowball minions.
I like that. I like that. No, it's a really good point. Even though it's still a couple turns away, you have to be prepared.
Yeah. And so for Killen here, you know, Direwolf Alpha looking very appealing in this spot. That starts to really start cranking up the damage on Paradox and, you know, threatening to take out, you know, opposing minions with some amount of momentum. Now, you might be interested in using the Merc Spark Eel, you know, anticipating maybe a flanking strike and then answering back with the Direwolf Alpha, but that's really the 2 big points of thinking there.
Well, we're definitely going to Totem as well. But I like the Merc Spark Eel for the reasons you mentioned. The 2 damage from the eel is really going to influence any minions from the Recruit Hunter side. They all have like 5 to 6 health at least on most of their minions. The Direwolf Alpha, though, is really valuable for the reasons that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's mainly Houndmaster Shaw. You need to be able to answer that afterwards, but the Merc Spark Eel can answer that body. And, you know, the frequency of Flanking Strike is going to be a bit more, however.
I mean, this is the most damage immediately.
That's tend to be what Killen takes. I mean, if you've ever watched Killen play Hearthstone, it's what deals the most damage. Okay, do that. It's also sometimes prompts a flanking strike. You know, it keeps your opponent from playing a Houndmaster Shaw in this situation.
Yeah. Paradox taking a second to think about it. It's taking a few seconds, actually. I thought this was a foregone conclusion to go for flanking strike.
Well, you know, there is some merits to playing Houndmaster Shaw. It's like, is your follow-up really that strong with it? I'm not quite convinced, and I think that Shaw has some merit here, but Direwolf Alpha, you're peeling 4 attack off the board with this flanking strike, and that's pretty much the direction I'm always going to go.
Agreed.
It also makes the turn a bit tougher for Killen, where if he wants to clear off the wolf, it, you know, requires a trade.
But with Serenite Chain Gang,
you could just divert the attack as well.
Yeah, could divert it, and
Nothing wrong with that.
Use the battle cry from the First Spark Eel to clean it up afterwards while it helps a little bit more power. That's where the second flanking strike really kicks in, though. And a nice Tar Creeper. This is looking all right.
Yeah.
Paradox drew pretty much all of his anti-aggro cards.
Yeah, Tar Creeper, you know, much more for when you're going first and you don't have access to coin flanking strike. Like, you need something on 3 that can do anything to the board. It's quite a greedy deck at the top end, but if you have your early game stuff, a lot of times you are going to be getting to that mid and late game pretty easily. So, you know, I'd be curious to see when Killen's going to use the Hex and how he's going to use it. Is it more of like a tool that he wants to use in a pinch to answer a big minion, or is it something he wants to use to push? That's really at his liberty, but if the game's not going super well, you know, a lot of times you feel like it's necessary to Hex to start pushing.
Oh my. Houndmaster Shaw.
Yeah, and Shaw is, you know, almost certainly going to demand a Hex in this situation.
He doesn't have to. The Hex actually doesn't really develop much compared to if you even just use a Merc Spark Eel to trade into things. But it does seem like it's the most mana efficient. And even Shaman, part of the reason why you even play this deck is for the mana efficiency. Gain tempo on your opponent.
Yeah, but it's, again, just still a lack of the real payoff cards. Flame Tongue is such an important card to this deck, and when it's not there, you find yourself with just a bunch of 0-2s in play. Not really any way to take advantage of them outside of the adjacent buffs.
That's why I like the Direwolf Alpha inclusion. It makes sense. It's like a different variant of Flame Tongue Tome. A little bit weaker in terms of its potential, maximum potential, but a little bit more consistent for you to play on curve.
Yeah. Direwolf's a good card.
Yeah, it was a solid card. And if Paradox drops this Witchfoot Grizzly, goes to a 3/7. You just saw Hex. Pretty reliable. Killin can't really answer this easily.
Yeah, Killin he's really approached the scary territory, which is he wasn't able to snowball the game on Paradox. And so now how do you win? Paradox's hand is he's got a pretty good life total. He's got defense set up, and we're looking at the Oozling and the Silver Vanguard coming up in the next couple turns.
Yeah.
This is pretty bad news for Killin. Maybe the taunts are enough to, sway attacks into, lesser minions while he starts pushing face, but that's still 2 turns away.
Yeah, Paradox again, being very slow. Just make sure not to rush into any decision. Mark of a pretty experienced player, but I would be very surprised to not see a Seepling Oozling this turn.
I'd be pretty stunned if it wasn't Oozling this turn.
I mean, you could spend the turn removing the Fire Elemental, but Seepling Oozling essentially has the same effect as Katharina at this point, right? Is there another Death Rattle on the deck that he wants?
I believe it's Katharina, and that's it. Yep, Silver Vanguard's in hand. Katharina's the other Death Rattle.
There's Savannah Highmanes in there?
No Savannah Highmane. Looking at 2 charged Devil Swords, Lich King, Katharina, King Crush, and Undasta.
That's a really interesting build. So the 2 Seepling Oozlings, despite only having 2 Death Rattles in the deck, has like a pretty high chance of whiffing. Yeah, I feel like
the idea behind it is that if you have both Katharina and Silver Vanguard in your hand, you just forego the Oozling and then use the rest of the cards that you have.
Yeah, that's where Undasta comes in too.
Yeah, the big failure rate of the deck, in my opinion, is just when you can't substantiate defense early on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Spark Eel.
Killin knows he's got to push here. So.
Yeah, this is the counter offensive we're waiting for. Can even trade in the. Oh, he can't trade in this the 1/1 because he just summoned it. It's pretty fascinating that he has that that Primal Fin Totem being played, but
yeah, that's a big turn for Paradox.
This is going to be a huge swing because of the Hunter's Mark.
Not because of the Hunter's
Mark. Oh, no, he just trades the Oozling.
Boom.
Rush. Ends up being probably the best outcome because Paradox doesn't even have a beast to pull out with Undasta.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a big outcome. One of the charged Devil Swords was tracking over, and Paradox trading into the 0/3. His game plan right now is to continue choking out Killin.
Well, Killin actually has Hagatha this game, so he won't be going down without a fight in terms of the resource count, because Hagatha, with things like Alec here and Mercspark Eel to maybe clean up King Crush, should be okay to survive, and then all of a sudden, Hunter's the one that's running out of resources unless Tracking can pick up Deathstalker or Rexar.
Yeah, also, though, the Silver Vanguard, right now it pulls out the second copy of Charged Devil Sword, Katharina, and Lich King as the 3 death rattles for that card. So Killin has to play Hagatha here, and now he starts, being on the back foot himself. Can he turn around these big, heavy hitters that Paradox is going to have turn after turn?
Yeah. I mean, that Rexar isn't needed right now. Silver Vanguard and Firefly are perfectly acceptable in this spot, but it's a good backup option.
Yeah, I mean, King Crush delivers some Damahe. I'm not really at ease if I'm KillinAllDay right now. It's looking tough. And that's his understatement.
Alec here is a guaranteed kill on the King Crush.
Oh. It does strand the 3/3 for a turn as well. Not really a Death Rattle activator on that card.
Yeah, that's true. It strands it, and then it even pumps Osrook.
Big buff.
I mean, and then you have 2 chances to get, like, an Earthshock.
Also some chance there, say like a Lightning Bolt or what have you.
Yeah, I was saying like specifically like the Earthshock because that's the ideal card to deal with the Silver Vanguard. And now Deathstalker and Rexar, very good opportunity to play it because it's considering how weak the hand was. So that is an important draw for Paradox to potentially close out this game.
If he builds a significant beast here, I think it's, you know, often you're not going to see tracking played for a very long time, if ever, at that stage. You know, he's going to be much more interested in not, you know, potentially burning any of the remaining minions because there's such high value at this stage.
Agreed. Why are you laughing?
Because the Ozrock.
It's activated. You know, Ozrock is like the lowest percentage win rate card off a Stonehill Defender or something like that, or like one of the, it's like bottom 3.
It's like it's a 9-mana 5/5 is its baseline stat, and for each elemental you played on the previous turn, it gets +5 health.
Yeah.
Not even like +5/+5, just like +5 health.
+5/+5 would be pretty nutty.
It'd be like a 9-mana 10/10 almost every game. Sometimes it'd be a 15/15, and you'd be like, whoa!
But like you could do like some pretty like wild stuff if you could do like
Earthshock.
Hey!
Look at that!
That's what I was talking to you about. And you can even fit in the Sea Giant.
Wow! That's a very important turn. I mean, maybe Killen's got a way to fight back here now.
Ooh, some pretty good cards!
Rain of Toads!
Hey! People said Rosticon's Rumble cards are not being played at this tournament.
You're wrong.
We got Plague of Toads. Oh, sorry, Rain of Toads. Plague of Toads. I'm so used to the Druid names. Sorry. Ooh, Ironbeak Owl is good against the Scarab.
I want a petition to change the Spreading Plague name to Spreading Toads.
Accepted. Hunting Mastiff allows Rush, but you can get a cheap Owl just for slightly better stats. Yeah, I think I like the cheap Owl.
Yeah, once you get to, you know, the later stages and you have a lot of mediocre options, cost efficiency tends to be the most important facet.
And now we can get mileage off that Hunter's Mark.
Oh, hits not the Scarab Egg too.
Yep.
And the Hunter's Mark has found a nice home.
Wow, swing after swing, admirable.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's still a bit up in the air. Like, Paradox, I think, has better minions in deck, but Killen has Hagatha rolling, and Hagatha can do a heck of a job when it comes to this endgame.
It's generating minions too with Rain of Toads.
The big problem is that 4/7 with poison. Like, everything big you play is checked already. So which direction do you go?
Yeah.
You know, at most, Killen looks like he's getting 1 minion this turn. If you Lich King and, you know, or I'm sorry, if you like Gen and pick up Feral Spirit, that's one of the only ways that you're going to be able to use 2 cards to generate minions.
Yeah, Gen does give you a little bit of freedom with your mana usage, though. There's a lot of like removal tools that people don't think about with Shaman, like Tidal Surge or Avalanche. You know, small things like that to help give you a little bit more access to removal. Lich King just to pick up a powerful Death Knight card.
Yeah, I think it's important right now.
Picks up Hex.
Wow. All right, so still a lot of fighting game here.
And it gets Death and Decay.
Dasta.
And dude, Dasta. This game is going haywire right now, admirable.
Yeah, and when you have Dasta in hand, the Build-A-Beast can get really scary because
take the biggest thing possible.
You can just take the biggest one. And here, Paradox, you know, he's finding the high-cost, low stats on the back end of that. So, you know, much favoring the efficiency there. You know, Scavenging Hyena, so good in these scenarios where you're slightly ahead on board and you're prompting answers from your opponent.
Except it lines up almost perfectly with Death and Decay.
Not quite.
Oh, the synergy. Flame Tongue Totem, Totemic Might.
Rain of Toads with the Flame Tongue. It's all there.
Rain of Toads is so scary. I want to tell you something. Scavenging Hyena is one of the most underrated cards in Hunter right now. It's so scary because of the amount of 1/1 rushes that are existing. So there's Unleashing the Hounds already. Then you have the Spring Paw and you have Halazi.
Yeah, one of the big ones I've run into is Master's Call, and you build the deck entirely out of beasts. And when you approach the turn 10 scenario, it's Tundra Rhino, Unleash the Hounds, and Scavenging Hyena for big charge damage.
Speaking of big, well, charge-like damage.
Dasta!
Ooh, Dasta! Summons out the Witchwood Grizzly in defense mode.
You protect, and Dasta attack.
And Dasta can attack again.
Yeah.
So you can build a beast and then Udas attacks one more time.
It's such.
And then you pull out the other beast.
It is such a powerful potential synergy that it has when you find just 2 giant things to attach on a Zombeast.
And in order for Killin to deal with it, he has to Hex. That takes his entire turn.
I'm looking at like Hex, Death, and Decay can clear this off, but you know, Paradox, Stitch trackers are providing endgame, you know, additional value, like finding, you know, Katharina and making additional stuff. You know, Killin just gonna fight for board fairly honestly here.
Oh, because he knows that it's gonna attack into the frog, and it becomes 3 health, and Death and Decay can finish off.
Yeah.
Dude, I just noticed that the frog is also the Pikachu meme. It has a giant open mouth. Oh my god!
Wow.
That is so much damage.
Yeah, you pretty much want that one over the average Build-A-Beast.
Yeah.
Paradox is, I mean, this is all Paradox this series. Killin, this is next to no chance to get back into this at this stage.
He has Death and Decay and Vicious Scalehide and Flame Tongue Totem. Alright, so I think you start off with a cheap minion like Vicious Scalehide. Because then if you get a way to buff or freeze, that might be the key to getting out of this.
I mean, he's missing 1 damage to kill a Charged Devilsaur.
He can also roadblock it. So he can Corpse Taker, roadblock. Now, he doesn't know what beast is in the hand.
I know, that's... the Build-A-Beast is just too much. You know, Paradox can just lean on Killin.
Then what about...
I'm trying to think of Hagatha cards that really make the difference here, and I think that's where Killin has to focus on.
Well, if he scale hides and Flame Tongue Totems, he goes back to 10 health, so he's not dead on board.
Oh!
Are you serious?
Oh, that is important.
Killin can't even believe. He's like, yeah. A little chuckle.
You having a giggle?
Oh, that's so funny because Paradox's accent. You should listen to him. Man.
Oh, I know.
He is a hoot to talk to. He's so funny.
Healing Rain. This is possible.
Very possible.
It's going to take a lot more, but that's the start. Oh, boy.
The double Cave Hydra, though, it has Echo and Rush.
Stings a bit.
And you know what can stand up to it? Ozrook. Ozrook and actually, you can't play it.
That's a second
to overload.
Cave Hydra potential with Echo and Rush.
Oh, that's really funny.
Opted for...
Coda.
Yeah. Oftentimes when you're on 10 mana and you take a 5 mana beast from the first stage of Build-A-Beast, there's so many fantastic 3-cost options on the tempo side.
What is happening this game? That's okay. It's not like amazing.
If only Ozrook's health buff was modified permanently.
Right.
Instead of a silenceable buff.
Now, I actually wonder about that. That would probably make that card very strong.
Cubit. The element.
But it would lose its buff. It's like an Ancient of War buff. Right?
That's what I mean. I wish it was like a permanent buff to itself.
And now these Cave Hydras coming out. Killin doesn't have any AoE left.
It's a really inefficient way to have to use Cave Hydra, though.
It's true.
Like, I don't know if that necessarily called for that amount of attention.
It was almost as if Killin played Cave Hydra. It was like one single minion dealt like AoE attack.
And 2 more minions to play this turn.
Avalanche. Oh, I was just feeling it, man. You freeze the frog, and because like Paradox positioned poorly for that.
That's, I mean, it's small, but it matters.
Right. You give like that 1 out of 26 or something.
When you get into these crazy circumstances, every little thing can matter.
Yeah, technical play is really important. Vicious Fledgling, a very powerful potential card here to end the game. Ooh, I love it with stealth.
You can also start it with Wind Fury.
That is true, and I like that. Oh, yeah, by the way, some of the best cards are yet to come with Lich King and Katharina.
Those are still in deck. Stitch Tracker is additional copies.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going the distance on this one, but boy, has it been entertaining.
It's been fast and furious. Wow. Hunter's Mark to deal 1 damage.
Yeah, I mean, Paradox is, I think free to play this aggressively with his tools. because he's got so much value to back this up, you know, just do everything you can to mitigate Killen's attacks to 0 per turn. Like,
yeah.
you can spend almost everything and still come out ahead.
How does he keep
How
getting
many hexes? Is that the fourth hex this game?
Hex.
All right, well, the rest of the turn now. Yeah.
Taking Totemic Might. Finally
Totemic
get value off of it.
Ancestral Spirit it. Let's go!
Totemic Might and Earthen Might is basically a Valen's Chosen buff. It's a 2/4 buff. And it becomes a 2/7?
Well, you coin out Valen's Chosen, right? Costs 2 mana, 2 cards.
It's not a joke anymore. 2/7 is pretty reasonable power on the board. There's
Well, it makes a 1/1 that the Cave Hydra gets to attack is the problem.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. It doesn't get to trade. Oh, that's annoying.
Natural Katharina now.
Are there any beasts left in Paradox deck?
Great question. I actually think there might not
I think
be.
one is.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
It's the I swear he tracked over that.
No, I think he stitched track of the other one. Right?
Ah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, he wants to free up board space.
Why?
Nope. He doesn't need freed up board space. That was just the actual trade to Dominion. Oh, to discount Sea Giant.
That would
Or
be
to increase the cost of Sea Giant.
that would be the reason. Oh, because then if it's Sea Giant like Rain of Frogs from Hagatha.
Yeah. Zap. He needs something big.
Oh, Killen
and
could have
that is
zapped his
something
own
small.
egg to discount it. Either way, Paradox 3-0 in this one, and it was crushing value. Once that